Hi, everyone. I'm Kylie Eden, Executive Director of Alliance of Women Directors. AWD is a nonprofit dedicated to achieving gender parity by substantially increasing the number of women and gender expansive directors working in the entertainment industry. In addition to our directing members, we have an ally membership that represents all genders and disciplines. Today, we are thrilled to have one of our icon members, Hanelle Culpepper, talking with Jazz 10K of Variety. Brought to you in partnership with Hulu, this FYC conversation covers Hanelle's exceptional work on the series Paradise. She directed 2 episodes of the season, including Exodus, for which she was nominated for a Primetime Emmy in the Outstanding Directing for a Drama Series category. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, I'm Jazz 10K, Senior Artisans Editor at Variety, and so excited to be here on behalf of the Alliance of Women Directors with Emmy-nominated Director of Paradise, Hanelle Culpepper. Hi, Hanelle.
Hi.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you
Um,
for having me, and thank you to Alliance of Women Directors for their support. I'm looking forward to this conversation with you.
I am so excited to be here because massive congratulations to you on the success of season 2 of Paradise. What a phenomenal season. Talk about going out with a bang and also directing the final countdown in Exodus. Yeah, there is so much that we're going to dive into, but let's just go back a little bit. I'm curious because you've got such an incredible resume directing, Star Trek Discovery, Star Trek Picard, Gotham, Star Wars, The Acolyte, like so much of that. But talk about how you actually found yourself, on Paradise and working with Dan Fogelman.
Yeah, so it really goes back to Star Trek Picard because Sterling saw that and loved it and wanted to work with me. And so he reached out and we were developing a project together. And so he's the one who advocated for me to Dan Fogelman and to the producers. And that's how I ended up on the show. I had a great meeting with them. They sent me the script. I loved the pilot script. I read that script and I was like, oh my God, mind blown when you get to the ending. And I feel like that basically that feeling you have when you watch the pilot and you're like, oh my God, this isn't a bunker. That's exactly how I felt. And I love shows with a twist. I love sci-fi that's really grounded. I love Dan Fogelman's writing and love Sterling K. Brown. So I was all in.
I love that. And you also, for those who don't know, you did actually also direct episodes in season 1. I'm curious, when you've got a show like this, and working with Dan, like talk about that collaborative process. Like where does it begin? Because like you said, you read the pilot, you
Mhm.
know, often, in TV, the finale hasn't yet been written. So what did he tell you about Paradise?
Yeah. So with season 1, I mean, the collaboration really started when I got the script and we were trying to work out how to shoot. I did episodes 5 and 6, and in episode 6, they shut down the sky. And so originally, what it was going to be is it was going to create a production challenge because it was going to be dark, so I was going to have predominantly night shoots, which of course just kills your crew. And there was going to be visual effects in every single shot, which of course is a budget killer. And so that's when I collaborated with them on what if we instead have it go from daytime to dark at a specific moment. I felt like that was more dramatic for the people living in paradise to go from day to immediate night. Visually it looked different, and we came with I and then pitching ideas so we didn't have to have this visual effect shots every single time you see the sky. And so that's the level of collaboration that they are totally open to when you have your challenges, and you come up with story reasons that help the logistics of it all, but also really support and amplify the story that they're telling. And so, it was the same with season 2. Before I started on the finale block, all I knew is when Steve Beard's producer said to me, it's like, Hanelle, we're going to do World War III. I was like, okay, there's a big episode coming. It just started like preparing myself by looking at things. But once again, even though they knew this was a huge block and they had allocated, budget to it, it's television. You never have enough money or time. So again, it was telling this story that has these amazing set pieces that keeps the audience totally on the edge of their seats, that has all these emotional components, but making it work. So coming up with ideas of, okay, how can we change perhaps how the elevator sequence works, things like that. So it's really actually great to work with him and his writing staff because they enjoy this process of us working together to figure it out, and they're not and they protect their words when it has to be because it's all based on real signs, and so we always want to make sure that we're honoring that, but they are open to those creative ideas, so it's a blast to do.
I love it. Speaking of a blast, we're going to go full spoilers here, by the way. The finale of season 2 was huge. Literally ends with a bang, but there's also so many emotions. What I really loved about Exodus, which was the season finale, is how it opens, like with this flashback. What was that like for you to explore, you know, Dylan's Flash Link origins and the conversations, or the ideas that you had in mind creatively of what that
Mhm.
flashback needed to look
Yeah.
like?
Yeah. It was, I love how Dan Fogelman gives you little taste of things in earlier episodes, and then you finally get the chance to fully explore it. So it was actually really great to fully explore the relationship between the professor and Dylan. And I had worked with Patrick on NCIS Origins, so it was actually really cool to work with him again. And all I know is I wanted it to have like a flow. Yasu and I talked about, should it be a little bit, we were going for, or I shouldn't say we, Yasu established for season 2 a warmer look than season 1, reflecting the fact that we were outside of the bunker and in the real world and, the real sunlight and stuff. And so we had discussions of what should that flashback look like, because we didn't want to step on the warmth that we were establishing for post-apocalypse outside. This is in the past. So we had some discussions of what that should be. And I wanted it to have a flow. So I really designed all of those shots, especially in a montage, so they could flow from one to the other, and each one telling a little full story within itself. And it was also just really cool developing what we call baby Alex, um, and putting that to life with Andy, our props designer. That was a lot of fun. We really wanted to reflect Big Alex, which we knew what that design inside had to gold, and which is all based on real science again. So it was a lot of fun to create that, both um, mapping out the visual language of it all, and then working with the cast on it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the cast, Sterling,
Hmm.
phenomenal throughout the season, but what I really loved is the reunion, that you got to showcase at the end of that episode and the season. What is that like, when you are balancing so many different character arcs
Hmm.
and having to bring this emotional weight, but especially on something, especially with somebody like, Sterling's character who we love so much and we're hoping for this, we're all rooting for this moment. Um, how do you navigate that and what was it like bringing that chapter
I felt like I
to a
was so
close?
lucky because in season 1, like the audience had just, they knew about Terry, I had the episode where they actually got to meet Terry, and it was so cool working with Anuka, and she brings so much vivacity to that character. And then I get to have the episode where they finally get to embrace again in the midst of this, you know, uh, suspenseful thing happening, as far as all the people not. Sterling has just, for those who haven't seen it, though, if you haven't seen it, you really should. It's kind of late, but Sterling has just did a bomb that he threw off as a distraction because he found out that his wife was probably here and he wants to get her back. And so you have all these guys with guns coming because they just think he's a terrorist up to no good. you have, and you see Terry come running at the end of the episode before mine began. She sees him, and it's like his first time seeing his wife after this whole journey to see her. And then in my episodes, when they actually finally get to come together and hug, and I just remember we had so little time to shoot the fight sequence and everything, but you just wanted to make sure that for sure that hug, I'm like, this is the moment the audience has been waiting on for 2 seasons for them to come together. And so I wanted to have that really beautiful sun flare. I did it 48 frames. I'm like, we are going to enjoy this moment. And speaking of collaboration, that's actually something I was, when I got my very first draft, I think that if I'm remembering this correctly, they see each other, but they don't actually have that reunion. Like he's taken away to be questioned. And I came into my first meeting, I was like, guys, they have to embrace, we have to get them together. And actually that turned out to have been like a note that they were already starting to work on. So the audience almost didn't have that first moment of them coming until even a little bit later.
Oh, see, I love those stories like that. Where did that come up? Like, does that come up in the table read, or is that just,
Yeah.
you're like, we need this moment?
It was my first day of prep that I raised that concern because as an audience member, because I'm also a fan of the show, so I know how much I've been looking forward to the moment of them coming together. And it's like, okay, here it is. And then it's like, no, it wasn't there. And I understand why, because it's a tense moment. You have her guys with the guns. They're like, don't know who he is. They want to question him. There's a lot going on. So I understand, but I just felt like we just still have to make it work somehow. You cannot have the audience have them come together and not have that moment of them being able to embrace and just like melt in each other's arms. It's been 3 years. So yeah, it was at the very first meeting. What's great about this show, so some shows have tone meetings towards the end of your prep schedule, and they're really open to having story meetings as early as you want. So I come in with all my kind of story notes and things that bump me and or questions why certain things happen the way, so that we were able to start talking about that on day one.
I love that. I mean, to that, like, talk about the ecosystem of working in episodic because you directed 2 episodes, yet the whole season, the whole series, I should say, just feels so cohesive. Like, talk about ensuring that cohesion is there, like, and then also at the same time, like being able to put your creative stamp on it. Like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
Well, Dan really trusts his writers. And so Katie French, Nadra, John Hoberg, Sena Haddad, Eric Wen, like they're with you. Katie was with me on most of my episodes um, for all of it. This season, I got to work a bit more with Nadra. So you have them there so that as you have questions or things, you can always run that by, ask them about it, and they always have the whole season, the whole story in their heads. And then, of course, we have our writing assistants who also like the encyclopedias. I think in season 1 and 2, it was Eric and Sina. This year we have Allison. And so they are able to also know these things. So you have that to help for the cohesion as questions come up for you as a director or for the cast. And so I feel like there's still ample places where you put your stamp, right? Because as the director, I'm still making every single choice. What are they wearing? Where are we going to shoot this? How are we moving the cameras? What is it going to be? How close do I want to get? Is it 48 frames? Is it not? How's the blocking gonna happen? All of that stuff I'm coming in prepared for. And obviously I am still working with my cast, like what feels right for them. So we're always adjusting, or if my camera operators see like a really great shot or a better way to do a shot that I thought of, then I'm open to what they have to say. Yasu always comes in with ideas of putting the camera in some unique place or going even tighter than what I was thinking. So the director's stamp is everywhere. So just because you have to support a visual language that's been established at the beginning doesn't mean that you are not still seeing yourself in all of your visual choices that you are making. And then each episode also allows you a chance to push that visual language a bit. So with the finale block, because we were doing this kind of destruction of paradise, that allowed us to really talk about what are some visual choices we can make, and also the reveal of Alex. Those were all new kind of visual language that we brought into it.
I love that. I'm just curious, at what point did you know Sinatra's fate? Like, and you're like, I have to deliver this, but how early did you know?
I think I did not know until I got the scripts. Yeah, I did not know. I don't believe I had been told anything until I got the scripts or read the scripts about it, and I thought it was. I mean, her character has always been so interesting because even though she is the villain of our series, you totally understand why she's doing what she's doing, and you just sort of feel for the mom who's still dealing with the grief of the loss of her son, and that she is, taking that she's doing this for the greater good. She wants to save humanity. She wants to take things back to how they were and have us not make our same mistakes. She wants her child to live. So you understand that. So she's a complicated villain and she's fascinating to watch. And you're like totally distraught and sad, when you read that, oh my gosh, she's going to die. Of course, in a Dan Fogelman universe, no one really dies.
Right.
They're a flashback, so it's not like you're never going to see her again. But still, for her to make that sacrifice, and it just also was sort of appropriate too, because when you think about that scene of her walking through the city, she's at peace. She's at peace with her decision. She's, at peace that she believes that it's going to work. There's the woman who's grieving the loss of her son. She gets to be reunited with him at the end. So it was I felt it was a really nice send off for for a villain who really has had, good at the end her heart.
I love that. You've talked about collaboration a lot, and Paradise obviously has a very large team, but what have you gained or learned over the years to ensure that there is that collaborative environment on set within, your team?
Yeah, I think even with beyond on set too, just even in the prep process with Exodus, was such a huge show. And so really, like, my first AD was Lisa Zuxford, and it really took a lot for us working together to break this down, to figure out what is the smart way of approaching it. And then really, like, I find that it's just great to be so open and listening to what your HODs have to offer and their experience. Working with the stunt team to figure out, okay, this is how long it's going to take you to rig our cast, be able to climb out of the elevator. So that means we should allow this much time, which means we should shoot this on a different day from this. And working with like our Johnny Weckworth, our visual effects supervisor, to really figure out, okay, if we do it this way, but bring in this little bit of practical element that saves us a lot of visual effects. Here's a place where we should just go full visual effects because doing it practically will cost so much time on the day. All those conversations you have with every single member of your HOD is just invaluable in coming up with a schedule and a plan that's doable. And because we had those conversations, because Lisa was so on it, we had many a weekend working together with storyboards and figuring this all out. I felt like we came up with a really smart way to shoot this episode and to tackle it. And it really came together in a seamless way when you look at it. And some of these sequences are taking place over multiple sets, even within the same like moment of dialogue, and it doesn't feel like that. And the cast is supported so that they are able to give an authentic consistent performance. So it's just those conversations are invaluable. I don't know how anybody sort of goes about directing alone. I feel like I love that, and directing can be sort of lonely in a way, like when you don't often get to work with other directors. So this collaboration with your HODs and these conversations, these back and forth, this sharing of your images, sharing, I'll sometimes have my visual references that I've brought in from Shot Deck or movie references so that you can really get everybody thinking the same way. Those conversations are all really exciting and fun, and that's part of what makes directing such a pleasure for me.
Yeah. Well, to that, like, is it more challenging to to visualize like the emotional beats of, like the quieter moments, or like is it no jazz? It's completely like the bangs, the explosions that we're trying to get off and
Yeah.
pull off, like, and just having that network as you're like putting that all
Yeah.
together. And
I so when I grew up, my dad was the one, my family went to the movies every weekend. And my dad, his thing was the sci-fi movies, the action movies, those kind of, horror thriller. Those were his things. And my mom was all about the epic love stories and those dramas. And so I've always loved both sides of that. I think that's why my body of work is varied like it is. And so for me, those emotional moments are just as important and as exciting as those bombs going off. And so I don't find it hard to imagine them. I just try to always protect them because the amount of prep and work and time that's needed to have the bombs go off can very quickly overtake your day, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, and here's an emotional moment, go. And that's just the thing I don't ever want to have. I want to be sure that, and even if in my head I'm like, oh my god, we're running an hour late, when we're on those scenes and those moments, I just make sure, and I hope my cast would always vouch that Holly doesn't put her stress onto us. Certainly when I was earlier in my career, I feel like I probably maybe wore that stress a little bit more openly. I always try to put that to the back so that when the cast is doing that, they get that time they need, they get that extra take they may want, so that you get those performances when you have all this other stuff that's on your day as well.
yeah, I love that. Um, you mentioned something earlier that I really loved to hear, is that, you've said you are a fan of the show. You want these moments that we want as audience members too. But I'm curious, what is the pressure of directing the finale, or a season finale, but it's also setting everything up for season three, where
Mhm.
we're like, oh my gosh, we need this, we need to know these answers like right now. And you're like, I don't have them, but this is what I need to do. Like, how much pressure is there on that? And you're like, or do you
I've
just, as
always
you say, put it back and be
no,
like, I love this, I'm here for it, I'm taking us where we need to go?
I think I feel the pressure with anything that I do because I I just want to deliver. I'm always striving for, putting out the best possible work that I can do. So, and certainly I felt like in season one, episode seven was so remarkable and scary and edge of your seat and the emotion. And so I felt like for this finale block, that was my goal, to be at least as great as episode seven was last year. And so being nominated just makes me feel like, okay, I guess I've I managed to be at least as good as that episode was, and as far as delivering all of the suspense and the emotional moments. So the pressure's on just because you want to do a great job. I want Dan to be happy. I want the fans to be happy. And yeah, I don't think there's any getting rid of that pressure. And but of course, don't walk into the set with that, right? You walk on with your plan, you're confident. And I think that's the way I deal with the pressure, is just by that prepping process and going deep into my research of what other movies and shows have done for certain moments and what makes sense for my show, what I want to do differently. So yeah, the pressure is there, but I just deal with it by working harder.
I love that. Well, this is your first Emmy nomination. Massive congratulations. How does it feel to be nominated with this group of directors? And like, you know, your body, as I said, your work is incredible. Those episodes that you've directed on the shows, truly remarkable. And I implore everyone to like watch what you have done. What makes this achievement so special to you personally?
Yeah, well, there's a lot. So first of all, I just want to say that I am like just super honored. Like I think I kind of mentioned earlier to have my peers recognize the quality of the work. That just really says a lot because you're working and you're putting out what you hope is your best work, but you don't really get that feedback. You get hired again, so that's always validating. But this is a way of getting that feedback from your fellow directors whom you respect, whose work you love, saying, okay, yes, you are doing good work. So there's that level of honor and gratitude. And then it's really special that I am just the second Black woman to achieve this, and Sally Richardson is the first, and she has two nominations in this category, which is just absolutely amazing for her. So I feel like, in this time where it's once again, unfortunately, getting harder for people of color and women to get these opportunities. Whenever you have a chance to celebrate a woman or a person of color and their work that they've done, it just helps to change that narrative and for people to no longer, I hope, use that excuse. We had a woman once and it didn't work out. Just to say that was a director that didn't work out for you. It wasn't that it was a woman. It wasn't that it was a person of color. Look, we can do incredible work that can be honored by our peers at the highest level. And then, like I mentioned, the people that I collaborated with on the episode, we all had to step up our game and think outside of the box and just do everything at a super high level because there was so much going on in this episode and so much to balance and to do. And they all delivered in a spectacular fashion as well. So it feels like it's not just an honor for me, it's an honor for all of the Paradise cast and crew and the amazing work that they did. I'm very happy that the show it got nominated for the series. I'm happy that the audience is loving season 2 so much, and we've gained fans who are now going back and watching season 1 for the first time. And then I just love what this means for women and people of color who are striving to do these jobs that are hard to get. I'm just hoping that this will continue to open doors for them.
Yeah. I so very love that. But what advice would you give then to, aspiring women directors that you wish you had, when you first started out?
Yeah, I think, well, just if this is what you want to do, like commit to it 100%, direct stuff. Today, young aspiring directors do not have the financial hurdles that we had when I was first starting off, when everything was shot on film. When we finally got the Canon XL1, that was like, okay, that took away a hurdle that allowed more people to be able to express their voice. And today you can do it in so many ways. So one thing I just would advise is if you want to do this, just do it. Just start doing the work, start making your mistakes. Don't have the pressure of this has to be like my best thing that's going to get into Sundance Festival. Just make the work because you learn from every single thing that you do. You learn your voice, you learn what you like, what you don't like. You learn something as simple as how long things take. And so that you could be ready when the opportunity knocks at your door. And I also would just say, just hang in there, don't give up. It is so tough. It was so tough when I was starting out, and everything's, all the stats just say how it won't happen. Just believe that you will be the exception and that you will make it.
Such great advice. Okay, last question. Paradise has made a point of shooting in Los Angeles, which is so great. I love it when I hear a show is shot locally. both the seasons was actually shot here.
Mhm.
What's been your experience of shooting in LA, and why is it important to keep production local?
Yeah. Yeah, it's been a lucky few years. So I also worked on Matlock and NCIS Origins and SWAT, which are also all shot in Los Angeles. And there's so many great locations. We've been all over the Southland area to shoot Paradise. And what's really great is when you talk to the crew and you see the joy that they feel at being at home, at being able to go home to their families at night when you're done. Um, it can be tough when you have to spend months on the road away from the people that you love. And so I just think it's important just for the joy of all the various cast and crew who live in this city. I also feel it's important for our city. I mean, our city was so much of it was born from Hollywood, and so for us to lose that industry would just be just so would be so distressing. So I'm happy that we've had so many tax incentives. I'm happy that I'm hearing about the different projects that are going to be shot here. And I just hope that we continue to get that support on the government aid level and also from the studios to shoot here. We have many, many wonderful locations. You can find so many looks. You also need this because it helps to develop the next level of people working. They need to have opportunities where they can come in and be PAs and be interns and all the things that you do to learn, because it's kind of hard to have to fly yourself to someplace else and put yourself up. That limits the opportunities. I know I had to do it. It's not cheap. So for them to be able to do it here, it's very useful as well. So I really hope it continues. I'm feeling like it's gonna be okay. Fingers
Uh,
crossed.
Fingers crossed. Hanley, I want to say thank you so much for that incredible conversation and insight into your process and taking us behind the scenes of Paradise. And of course, thank you to the Alliance of Women Directors. And once again, congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thank you. Thank you, Jazz, for the fun interview.
Thank you.